yesterday we had some crazy news with the oil industry, and I think shedding some light on how companies are reacting to that and sort of overcoming some of those obstacles is something people probably want to hear about. So why don't we kind of jump right into that topic to start? And so to give people some background, yesterday the oil futures prices dropped pretty heavily due to the lack of oil demand globally, which is pretty significant. It's a little bit scary, but tell us about sort of what companies are going to be doing to react, how they're going to be maintaining jobs and really overcoming the short term in order to sustain themselves for the long term.
Sure. So I think in the sense of oil, the demand certainly dropped because of COVID-19. There's less automobiles on the roads. There's less need for energy. That's kind of insignificant as much as there was overproduction.
Yep.
Right? So you have this war between Russia and Saudi Arabia in trying to outmaneuver one another and really force a price war.
Yep.
And in fact, it blew up on them.
Yep.
So the rest of the world has to deal with it. But, as I said to you yesterday, there is a new world order.
Yep.
There is no question about it. We are a family that grew up in the oil industry for generations and generations. It started here in Fairhaven with Standard Oil. We absolutely know that there is a new world order taking place. Oil production has been very vital for our global economy. And this shift is going to be huge. It's going to be immense. And we're going to have to create a whole new global economy. And what is that going to be? Is that going to be in the services industry? Is it tourism? Is it education, quite frankly? Is it research and development for new technologies? We don't know yet. We really don't know yet. So how does this affect the maritime industry? And we don't know yet.
Right.
So the ability to adapt to ambiguity is key. And some of the best adaptations to industrial economies has been incurred by the maritime sector, right? So the maritime industry really is one of these brilliant industries that adapts, and they shape up and they figure out where they're going to head. So if you look at the offshore supply industry, for example, they supply the drilling rigs and they go out and support. Well, they're going to have to adapt, right? So where are they going to adapt to? They're going to adapt towards offshore wind,
right,
for example. They're going to adapt their vessels so they can go ahead and build wind terminals and wind farms offshore. That's one of the things we're going to have to do. With that, we are going to look at this homogenized industry that not only are we providing energy, but I think food is going to be one of the critical factors in the future of maritime operations. Food is going to be essential. And clean food, and food that is sustainable and not ruining nature in the sense. Okay, so where does food go? You've certainly got aquaculture and sustainable aquaculture, but you are also going to be looking at proteins such as shellfish, and in fact, fish can be grown at sea. There's been strides made with certainly the salmon industry, but that's been controversial. But there's even the opportunity to grow Atlantic cod at sea in these new vessels, and it's pretty fascinating when you see some of the technologies that are being created to create fisheries. But the other thing is we're dealing with that the world has to tackle as not only the maritime industry, but the world as a whole is ocean acidification, global warming, and these huge algae plumes that are being developed certainly in the Gulf of Mexico, certainly in parts of the Atlantic, in the Pacific, the garbage patches. We're going to have to clean up our waters, right? So this is going to be a major part of growth opportunity in the maritime sector, with kind of forward-thinking peoples in how they are going to commercialize and sustain these opportunities. So when I was a kid growing up, it was, I grew up on tankers. 85% of my career was LNG tankers. I think LNG tankers are going to play a pretty solid role over the next probably decade or two, because it is a cleaner fuel than, say, the petrochemicals that are being used in today's world as we know it. That has to change overnight. We're seeing this with the COVID-19 pandemic, that because of staying at home, oh my God, the earth is clean.
Right.
People can breathe. We are seeing a global or a sustainability within nature that we haven't seen in 50 years. People wake up. We need to really identify that in a way that is cogent to the well-being of our children and our grandchildren. So how do we adapt? We look at these other opportunities in a way that will be configured cleanly